Hello, and welcome back to the Compassionate Curiosity Podcast, a space where we explore the messy, beautiful, challenging project of being human. I'm your host, Rachel, a women's wellness coach and yoga and mindfulness teacher at Tranquilo Pa Wellness. And my mission is to help women who feel stuck in cycles of stress, whether that's from burnout, emotional overwhelm, or stress about their bodies, to find peace so they can finally feel like themselves again. Here in this space, we dive into the stories we carry about food, movement, our bodies, stress, and self worth, sharing tools, reflections, and lived experience to help you soften the pressure, reconnect with your body, and create more space in your life to breathe, rest, and just be, all guided by curiosity and grounded in compassion. And if you're not already following the show, take a quick second here to hit follow so you never miss a new episode. And I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Today, we are going to be talking about what it means to love yourself. I think this, as with almost everything, can be defined or interpreted in so many different ways. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's one of the beauties of not only language and words, but also just the variance of life, right? There could be several different ways that any one individual interprets, experiences, understands things to be. So it makes sense. But at the same time, words can be limiting, right? I think I mentioned something similar in the episode on body trust. Words can be limiting in that once we attach meaning to a word, we tend to stick with that, right? Kind of closing the door to any other interpretation of it. And that directly affects how we relate to and how we experience that thing. So, all that said, what I would love to do today is maybe just add to the list of definitions for self love and offer to you what it means to me as I've come to know it through my own lived experience, which has totally evolved, by the way, and probably will continue to do so. This definition has taken many shapes. And so I guess what I'm sharing with you today is where I currently stand with self love. And that may or may not resonate with you. It may or may not be helpful. It may or may not be what you need to hear right now. So I'd invite you to just be open to whatever comes up for you as we move through this. I am going to remind myself of that today as well. I have been having a particularly emotional week this week. And so, I'm going to let whatever comes up for me come up and just be there. And so know that this is a safe space for you to do the same. And I usually have some sort of structure to these episodes, or at least I intend to. Maybe it doesn't always seem like that. But this one, I am throwing structure to the side and just letting my heart lead. And so bear with me on this, and I invite your heart to take the lead on this with me as well. And so I want to pause here and, as always, invite you to join me in a moment of connecting, of turning inward, of just seeing and feeling how you are right now. So if you're safe and able to, I'd invite you to find a comfy position, gently close your eyes, and just start by taking a deep breath in through your nose and letting out a long breath through your nose, completely emptying yourself. And take a few more deep breaths like this at your own pace. And then just let your breath settle into its natural rhythm, however that is right now. It's common for that to change day to day, moment to moment. And so just noticing how it is right now without jumping to fix it. And as you follow the in-breath, notice any sensations, maybe tingling in your nose, maybe a coolness, your chest expanding, And as you breathe out, doing the same. And then I want to invite you to place your hand over your heart space. And as you breathe in, say to yourself, I am safe. And as you breathe out, saying to yourself, I am loved. And as you breathe in, saying to yourself, I am loved. And as you breathe out, I am safe. And do 2 more rounds of this at your own pace, reminding yourself and your being that you are worthy of love and safety. And when you're ready, gently opening your eyes and letting the world back in. Thank you so much. So, coming back to this question, what does it mean to love yourself? For me, the first time this question even came into my field of awareness as something to even consider or contemplate was maybe a year and a half ago now. And I'm in my mid-30s here, people. So not having sat with that question at any point prior meant that I also didn't know my answer to it either. And I remember when I first started hearing about self-love, it seemed so like fluffy and indulgent and totally out of reach, so foreign. And I guess that in and of itself already spoke to where I was at when it came to loving myself. In other words, off my radar. Because I feel like, and I guess this is just me speaking for myself, when you do truly and authentically love yourself, you know it. It's actually a crystal clear and without hesitation knowing. So when I did first ask myself that question, my definition of self-love was taken from what I had gathered from societal messaging, like doing peaceful, nice things for yourself. It felt very external. And not that there's anything wrong with engaging in peaceful, nice things. In fact, those can be gateways to helping us reconnect with presence and our true beings. So please, by all means, do engage in these if you feel called to do so. But I think I just learned that narrow definition is just a part of self-love, but not the whole picture. And there is a massive, beautiful, spacious picture to be seen. When I was pretty early on in my recovery journey, there were so many new things I learned about myself. And this was thanks to a much deeper, fuller understanding of what my disorder was protecting me from. And one of those things it was protecting me from was feeling like I wasn't enough, like I wasn't worthy, like I wasn't accepted. Because those are incredibly heavy and challenging beliefs and emotions to sit with, right? So cue in the eating disorder to protect me from that. And when that kind of came to light, it was like a switch flipped. It was so clear to me that I did not love myself, that I didn't know the first thing about loving myself. I didn't know what that meant, what that felt like. So it was more clear to me what self-love was not, which is what I was experiencing, a lack of self-love. In fact, now in retrospect, because I have more supportive tools to do this kind of reflecting safely, I can see that there was actually quite a deep hatred toward myself, which I know can be really hard to hear. It's hard to say. But if I'm being honest with how it was, that's part of the story. And so when I realized that, I'd start to have these memories pop up of like examples from my past of how I did not love myself. And for example, I'll share a few with you. And I want to say up front here that a lot of these, if not all, were protective mechanisms that weren't in my conscious awareness at the time. And so I want it to be clear that they're not a question of willpower or things I did to myself, but at the same time, they're raw examples of how I did not love myself. And so that said, for example, continuing to run several miles a week when my hip was screaming at me to stop. As a teenager, constantly responding to any resemblance of a compliment with, ew, no, I'm gross, or something along those lines. Grabbing at my stomach in disgust. Ignoring my body's hunger cues. Or as a middle schooler, taking a pen and scribbling my face out of the yearly memory book. Which that one only recently came into my awareness field and really shook things up for me and is doing so right now again. So I'm going to take a breath here. Thank you for holding the space. And so let me tell you, most of the time these memories came up, now being in a different space and having a different relationship to and with myself, I felt such a deep sadness. And as you can see and hear, I still do, for how I treated myself. Sometimes there's some anger in there too, and disappointment. But because my default now is born from compassion and understanding and awareness, I can hold all of that and be able to let it move through. I used to say, and not let it consume me, but I find that at times it very much feels like it consumes me. And I don't think that's a sign that anything's wrong or that self-awareness is like backfiring. I think it just means that I'm allowing myself to actually fully feel all these things that my system had been running from, trying to avoid, trying to protect me from for years. So yeah, it feels pretty damn overwhelming at times. But I think this is part of the process of processing and facing these parts of us that just want to be seen and held. And when I do that, I can send compassion and love to my past self who didn't have that capacity at the time, who wasn't able to allow or be with these heavy, painful emotions. So for me, at this point in time, to love myself means actually many things, which I guess makes sense why there are so many different definitions and interpretations. But this definition I came up with is resonating with me right now, and so I want to share it with you. Self-love is to allow, accept, and honor your full spectrum. Seems short and sweet, right? But there's actually a lot going on there. And so let's break that down a bit. To allow. What does it mean to allow? That means to be open and receive whatever is there. To accept, very similar to allowing, but goes a step further. You're open and receiving whatever's there, but also welcoming in that which is there. I do think there's a welcoming component to accepting. And then to honor. Such a strong word. To honor is to respond from a place of compassion and respect. And then What we're allowing, accepting, and honoring is your full spectrum. So, what does your full spectrum refer to? This is all your colors, babe. We're talking from the things we present openly to the world all the way to those deep, dark corners of ourselves that we either pretend don't exist, don't know exist, or have disowned by means of protective mechanisms. So, to love yourself is to allow, accept, and honor your full spectrum. So, for me, at this moment in time, loving myself doesn't mean being the happiest, lightest version of myself, but instead, it's being able to hold and honor the saddest, heaviest parts of myself. It's turning toward the darkest corners of myself and offering a light for them to be seen. It's allowing myself to feel what comes up moment to moment and do so without judging myself for feeling it. It's seeing all my colors and not trying to change the shade or tone of any of them. It's speaking my truth from the depths of my being, even if that's met with resistance. It's knowing my validation need only come from within. It's me. I am self-love. You are self-love. So, if those definitions sound totally out of reach for you right now, as it was for me not long ago, first of all, I hear you and I see you and I feel you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There is so much going on beneath the surface. Sometimes things we're consciously aware of, and other things we just have no idea about. But all these things shape how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And so if you're looking to shift from where you are, wherever that is, into a lighter, more kind, loving relationship with yourself, you might be thinking, how the hell do I do that? That was my question. What does starting from self-hatred and working my way to self-love even look like? How does that happen? Well, it has been a hot mess in the most lovely sense of the word, and has been anything but easy. And I also think it's important to clarify here that there is no goal here. There is no fixed arriving. Like, there isn't some day you wake up and you're like, I love myself, and then you're done. You're good to go for life. Maybe, but probably not going to be the case. Why? Because we're human and we feel things. We have old patterns that play out, whether we're aware of them or not. We experience a wide range of situations and events that affect us, and we grow and evolve in our own way, on our own timeline. So I think it's easy for us to look at ourselves and life and want to see change and want this clear-cut path to doing so. But I don't know about you, but I have found that that clear-cut path rarely exists, at least for things related to getting to know yourself and healing and unfolding and growing. So let's try and keep that in mind as we move forward, because I'm going to share with you 2 steps that I've found to be particularly helpful when it comes to rebuilding that relationship with myself. And they're practices that I return to all the time. And so they may be stepping stones for you as well, but also, keeping in mind that this isn't a clear-cut path. And so it may not work for you right now or anytime. And so again, keeping that in mind and giving ourselves some grace with that. So the first big shift for me happened when I stepped onto the awareness stone. Awareness of what is. We don't know what we don't know. We can't see what we can't see. And so bringing into your awareness with intention and curiosity and compassion, you can start to see what your self-love looks like right now. And so there are 3 really awesome check-in points that can help you start to build that awareness. The first one is asking yourself, when I hear the word self-love, what do I think? What comes into my mind? And just noticing what's there. Is it a reaction like, ew? Is it words like, that's not even on my radar, or that's not something that matters to me? Is it straight up, I don't experience that? Maybe it's, I'm working on that right now. Whatever it is, just letting that sit in your awareness field and starting to get curious about it. The second check-in point is this. In a place where you feel safe, go stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and say to yourself, I love you. And just see what comes up for you. It is really common for this to be extremely difficult to do. So many of us are not used to speaking to ourselves with love. And so this can bring up a lot. And so I invite you to just try this out when the time feels right. And give yourself the space before and after to let things surface, whatever they are, just noticing and allowing. The third check-in point is to just check in with the definition that we talked about earlier. So asking yourself, do I allow, accept, and honor my full spectrum? Maybe the answer is yes to allowing most times, but no to accepting and honoring most times. Maybe it's yes to allowing and accepting, but no to honoring. Maybe it's no to all of it. And maybe it's a yes right now to some part of it, but tomorrow that's not the case. That is totally okay. Because again, there is no arriving. There's no right answer here. We are constantly learning and unfolding and going through different seasons of our lives where things shift and evolve. This self-love journey is an ongoing process and a skill, which means we'll have days when we feel it stronger and others where it feels less present. And so that's also why having some go-to practices and tools on hand, like these check-ins and what we'll talk about next, can be so helpful in grounding us, recentering us, to help us continue building that self-love muscle. And so those are the awareness practices, and all of those can be great starting points to help you see where you're at, right? The second step, building off of growing awareness, is to gently start working in self-compassion practices. I see self-compassion as self-love's best friend, her wing woman, her right-hand woman, because to me, one does not exist without the other. And so I started to build self-compassion when I was getting into the nitty-gritty weeds of what was going on in my inner world. All the ways these different parts of myself were protecting me and why, and all of those deeper layers. That understanding is what really opened the door to self-compassion for me. That helped me see my humanness, and that naturally brought in a felt sense of self-compassion. And so that was my entry point into self-compassion. And so that might be helpful for you too, in whatever context you're seeing yourself in here. You know, maybe that's understanding your patterns that aren't supporting you anymore. Maybe that's understanding what's really under your stress or emotional overwhelm, which seeking out support, whether that's through coaching or therapy or another modality that resonates with you, can be helpful in bringing to light some of those underlying factors. But another solid starting point for building self-compassion is one that I turn to so often. And it's a simple question that you can ask yourself when you notice harsh self-talk going on. So One, it's important to be able to catch yourself in those moments, which is why a steady self-awareness practice can be so valuable, right? So you can do this more naturally and more easily throughout the day. And then two, when you do catch yourself, ask yourself, if someone I loved said this, how would I respond? What would I say? What would I do? And then see if you can say that thing or do that thing for yourself and just see what comes up. Again, this is usually pretty uncomfortable when we're starting out because it's unfamiliar. And your brain is like, what are you doing? We don't do this, right? That fear is trying to protect you from something unknown, something different. But our compassionate, loving state of being is our natural, whole, beautiful state of being. We just forget that from all the craziness that comes along with being human. So start there and just see how it goes. And I want to take a minute here before we wrap up to look at the question of why self-love even matters. Why is this something even worth building, right? Aren't I just fine if I go through life talking trash to myself, pinching my arms, shrinking myself? Well, what I've found in myself and in my life since stepping onto the self-love path is such an abundance of beauty and expression that it's truly incredible to now know and feel the difference between living a life where I don't love myself and where I do. For example, I have noticed in general so much less tension inside my body, inside my mind, in my soul. My external relationships with others have become so much more expansive and authentic. I enjoy life so much more. I laugh so much more. I can express myself openly. I feel more at peace in my day-to-day. So much energy and space within me has freed up since shifting my attention out of constant self-critical thoughts and actions. And it's energy and space that is now open for anything other than those things: creativity, presence, connection. And it feels like self-love in general has helped me start to actually live life. And the thing is, these inner shifts don't just stay within, right? Our energy directly impacts those that we're with, right? That inner love translates to outer love. As the love for ourselves grows, so does our capacity to love others. There's more depth, more presence, more openness. And you're living and moving at a higher frequency, one that others will inevitably feel and be uplifted by. That ripple effect is inevitable and profound. There is no doubt about it. I've seen it and felt it in my own life. And so when we look at this journey that starts within and ripples outward, just imagine what we could do in this world if we all started to love ourselves, even just like 10% more than where we are right now. What would that look and feel like? So I will leave you to ponder that question, and I will do the same. And so as we wrap up here, my dear, if you are where I was not too long ago, I want to tell you again that I hear you and I see you and I feel you. And you are strong. You are capable. You are bold and courageous and worthy and loved. Even if you can't see any of that right now, I will hold that for you until you can. And I will continue to be that voice that tells you you are worthy of self-love and everything that it opens up for you, and that you can experience it. You're allowed to. More than that, you are that. You are self-love. That is you. And you are so, so beautiful. And so I'd invite you this week. So much is coming up for me right now. My goodness. I am just allowing. Thank you all so much for holding the space. Clearly, I needed these messages today as well. And so I'd invite you this week to see if you can do one check-in with yourself. Maybe one of the awareness check-ins or the self-compassion question. See if you can give yourself permission to open that conversation with yourself and see what comes up. And if something in this episode spoke to your soul, I'd love to hear what came up for you. And if someone in your life who you love came to mind during this episode, there's usually a reason for that. Sometimes it's because you are meant to be that bridge to offering a loving message that they might need to hear. And so I'd encourage you to send this to that person if it feels aligned right now. And if you yourself are struggling with this whole self-love journey, first of all, you are not alone. And secondly, I want to offer to you, I have just a few more spots open this month for a free Reclaim Your Worth breakthrough session, which is a space for you and I to work together to bring to light some of your old patterns of self-criticism and provide you with some tools to help you start reconnecting with your deep sense of worth and value. And so if that feels aligned for you right now and you want to act on that, I will put in the show notes the links for you to do that. And I look forward to supporting you. And so I hope this has been helpful. And I want to thank you so, so much for joining me today and holding the space for me today. And until next time, my dear, may you know that you are not alone. I am here with you. May you be guided by curiosity and grounded in compassion. Sending you love, light, and gratitude today and always.